The key to Emperor Wu's success was expanding the empire by transforming military service. Like the Qin, he made military service compulsory. He had 100,000 troops in his imperial guard that were stationed at his capital. He had well over 1 million people in a standing army. That's their only occupation. And using that force and allying with folks who supported the Han, he started expanding the empire into the Korean Peninsula. You can see on an earlier map. And this one too, into into the area known as Szechuan by 135 BC, which opened trade routes into Southeast Asia. But this expansion renews conflicts with lots of bordering people, and most notable among these are the folks who kind of live in the steppes and the desert to the north and northwest, the Xiongnu. At first, these folks in the Han had a pretty symbiotic kind of I scratch your back, you scratch mine relationship. Merchants traded silk cloth and thread. They brought finished bronze goods to the Xiongnu, and in return they got things like horses and cattle. But under Wu, the military begins to expand into that area. They move into the Mongolian steppes. They drive back those nomads. And they, at the same time, repel lots of Xiongnu invasions into those border territories, most notably between 129 and 124 BC. And eventually, Han armies go even deeper into their territory, splitting the tribes. The southern tribes surrender, the northern ones move west. They eventually actually go and fight the Roman Empire. And the retreat of the Xiongnu and other nomads creates a period of peace for the Han. Historians have called it the Pax Sinica, the peace of this era. And during this period, from about 150 to 87 BC, long-distance trade flourishes, cities balloon, standards of living go way up, populations surge, and Wu and his successors enjoy tribute, taxes, from distant vassals, distant people who are paying these taxes. That allows those states to function really on their own terms. They do what they want. As long as they pay taxes, it's fine. They rely on trade and markets to induce these vassals to work within the tribute system, and they, in turn, become very prosperous kind of satellite states. This Han expansion coincides with the flourishing of what is called the Silk Road, which we'll see later on in this class. And Wu continues to expand west. By 100 BC, he has extended the northern defensive wall that we saw earlier, pretty much across the Gobi Desert. He had signal beacons along the walls where people would make huge fires in times of emergency to call military forces to come and support them. He builds garrison cities at oases to protect trade routes, which is something that later on is going to help Buddhism move to the east. He establishes military and farming families and colonies in kind of semi-desert regions where he expands agriculture. He encourages soldiers to take their families there to dig wells and canals and to start farming when they aren't fighting, which is honestly most of the time. Government gives them things like seeds and tools and technological support that allows them to flourish. And this dramatic military expansion requires stationing soldiers all throughout this territory. And if they are colonists from a central area, they bring that Han culture with them. That's expensive to maintain, though, and the huge expense of maintaining that army really exhausts the imperial treasury. What do you do if taxes aren't cutting it? Well, you raise them. That strains small landowners, and that strain continues after Wu's death. By the end of the 1st century BC, the empire is pretty much financially drained. And to make matters worse, natural disasters lead to lots of crop failures. That's especially rough on peasants, whose taxes weren't based on how much they produced, but how much land they had. So whether it's a good year or a bad year, they're paying the same amount of taxes. The peasants rebel, and what we'll do is we'll think about this and kind of the decline of the Han on the next and final slide.